Chris here with what I think is the best foldable that you can get, as you'll see in this review. It's from Honor, and this is the special edition of it too as well that they sent me. It's got 1 terabyte of storage, 16 gigabytes of RAM, and it is the Porsche design Honor Magic V2 RSR. And you can see I'm holding a stylus here because, yes, it does support it on the outer screen, and then the inner screen, we've got that stylus support, 4096 pressure sensitive levels. And with this phone here, well, it is the thinnest foldable that you can get. So it's 99 millimeters when folded, unfolded just 4.7 millimeters. And it's got 66 watt wired charging, powered by the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2. And it does have 250 megapixel cameras on the rear. So one, the main camera, the other, the ultra wide, 20 megapixel zoom camera, and then an outer and inner camera that are 16 megapixels that support 4K video. So let's take a look at what we get inside here with our Magic V2 RSR. So here is our foldable Magic V2. So just put that to one side. We've got our active stylus. So this works on both the outer and inner screen, 4096 pressure sensitive levels. And then under all of this here, that comes off, you'll see we've got 2 sets of cables and chargers, which is a little unusual. It's different. This is our EU charger, so both of them are boxed up basically the same here, and you'll see that just inside, that is the EU charger, so 66 watts maximum, okay, you can see on the back there, on a supercharge, and then we do have our cable, which is Type A to Type C. And the other side is where you will find the UK charger, so it is a little unusual to see them including both an EU and then UK charger in the same box. I guess it's just easier for them to package them both up. And then the middle box here, that's our SIM tray tool with the Porsche design logo, and just pushing this out here, you'll see we do have a case, which is a very good looking case here. Great to see it's included. Well, with such an expensive phone, I'd expect that really. And you see that is just the back of it here, and it's got this nice texture in it. And it does look really good, and it does stand out, the Porsche design. And there is protection there for the spine of our foldable phone. And then there's this that's included in the box too, which is a holder, a little case for our active stylus. So you can just slot it into that there and then close that up. Now note that this stylus here, it is charged via Type C. It's quite well designed the way they've hidden it away here. So you simply just pull that off, and that is the Type C port right there for charging it. And there's a little status LED, and we'll go into sleep mode, and you just simply need to tap the button there to turn it back on. And speaking about thin and light, well, this is just so thin, the phone. So folded here, this is 9.9 millimeters, and when you unfold it, the thickness you're looking at this is just 4.7 millimeters. I mean, have a look where the Type-C port is down the bottom. You can see that it really is just so thin. So we've got loudspeaker here. There's one on the other side. You can see the antenna lines, metal frame. SIM tray takes 2 nano SIMs. Microphone here. This is our volume up and down, made out of metal. The build quality, superb, very good here. That's that other speaker. We get an IR transmitter, secondary microphone there. And then the cameras on the back, when you fold it up, you'll see them. Well, when you turn it around too. We've got our LED flash microphone here. So 3 mics in total. So the main camera, this is 50 megapixels, 50 megapixel ultra wide, and a 20 megapixel 2.5 times optical zoom camera. That can go up to 10 times or even more digital zoom if you want. Now, this backing here, this is made out of glass, and it resembles this is the Porsche design, the iconic kind of hood look of a 911, they say, this part here in the middle. And this is different to the normal Magic V2. You can see that they've just changed it. So it makes it very easy to clean too, by the way, because this is all just one level, that glass that's covering those cameras. And this is a agate gray, the color of it. I think it looks really good. You can see it picks up a few little fingerprints, but it resists them quite well. And opening this up, well, this really is the star of the show. This inner screen looks absolutely stunning. So this is 7.92 inches. It's OLED, 120 hertz, the refresh rate. So it's very, very smooth, and it's really bright too. The brightness, it goes up to 2500. Sorry, that's the outer screen. 1600 nits, this one. And it's got a pixel density of 402 ppi. So everything does look really sharp. And of course, we've got that stylus support. I'll get onto that later on. So it's an LTPO screen, so we've got a variable refresh rate. And then we do have 3,840 hertz pulse width modulation dimming too with the screen. So when it's running at 120 hertz, you don't see any flicker at all. Now, what about the inner display in sunlight? You can see it now. You can make it out. It looks really good. Now, that banding you're seeing, this is just with the camera I used for recording this clip outside. You don't actually see that at all in person. And again, that hinge, it does feel very good. So they're using a super light titanium hinge for this. The outer display here, so this is 6.43 inches. Again, it's an OLED screen LTPO up to 120 hertz. And this one is the 2500 nits, and it's the same 402 ppi. So they have the same pixel density on both the outer inner screen, and it has the anti-scratch nanocrystal shield on this particular screen here too. And again, the stylus support, so really good. And this one fares even better in direct sunlight, as you can see now. Again, a bit of banding happening. That is just because of the camera again that I used for that. Continuing just a little bit here with that screen, I wanted to show you some of the options we do get with it. So you've got their ebook mode that you can turn on, which turns the screen into black and white. You've got eye comfort, sleep. You can turn on their circadian night display too as well. If you're going to be running that, you can schedule it too. So it's going to reduce the blue light. You've got dynamic dimming, and it talks there about, again, that ultra high frequency pulse width modulation dimming. So you don't get that flicker that you can see with older generation OLEDs that would be kind of shimmering away at the corner of your eye that can really irritate you. Now, the gestures are all working really well. Everything's very responsive with that 16 gigabytes of RAM. It is really good. You can control the size of the display. So I'm just keeping it with the default here at the moment. I would probably actually run it a little bit smaller, but for my video, I thought it'd be best just to keep it a little larger so you can see everything clearly. But I like to run the smaller kind of resolution on it. DPI, so the scaling of it, I think does look good. Color temperature options, you do have that in there. So they've got all these kind of things you can tweak with the display, which I really do love to see. And most of the phones are going to have that option anyway. And all of that is pretty standard. Of course, you do have your dark modes you can turn on as well if you're really interested in squeezing the best out of that battery life, which, by the way, is 5,000 milliamp hours. So with our toggles, there's a couple of things I want to point out here too as well that I do like to see. So obviously we've got NFC with this, we've got even Wi-Fi calling, but good to see the toggle there for 5G. If again you wanted to just save a bit on battery life, then you can just toggle that off straight away, and it's easy to turn it on and off. I don't live in a 5G, well, proper 5G zone. I can get on 5G now if I turn off Wi-Fi. You'll see it'll come up that I'm now on 5G. It's a little difficult to see because it's small, but I'm there on 5G, but it's not actually the full speed. So I don't mind that I can simply just toggle that off there too. And you can see it's jumped on to 4G+, but it's good having all of those kind of options. So again, the performance of everything is really smooth. That just being our toggles notifications on the other side too as well. Swiping down, you can see all of those, and it's really good just how everything pops in. Multitasking is great having such a large screen as well, which I'll talk a little bit about in this video. So we can run a lot of apps with floating windows, which is great for multitasking. So I have right here, this is Google Play Store. I can bring up the gallery, whatever you want, and you can select them to be windowed too as well. So I've got that one windowed, and then you have a little tab here, so you can easily swap between them. So great for multitasking that way. And if you want, you can do other things with them. So I could select the option here if you just double tap on that I wanted to run a proper split screen, so I can have, say, my apps here run again, say Play Store or Chrome, and have this here. And it doesn't really affect the performance too at all. Now, just to mention a little bit about the stylus, which I'm currently using for this, you don't have to worry about it damaging the screen because it's got a special rounded tip for it, and it's designed for use on, of course, the Magic V2 here. So it's going to work on the inner, and then when I bring this up, you see that that is exactly the same on the outer screen. So it's all good with that. And I'll get a little bit more into depth with that stylus too. So the fingerprint reader, which is located here on the side, is a capacitive, always on style fingerprint reader, and it does work really well. As you can see, I just tapped that, it unlocked. I've not had even any problems with it at all. I find it works better than the in-screen optical ones. Capacitive seems to be a little bit quicker, a little bit more accurate. No complaints at all from me. And let's get on to that stylus now experience. So the great part about the stylus is it's a normal pen size. Very good. And I love the way that they have the Type-C port for charging it just at the top there. Magnetically, it'll spring back. You can see it's just gone back into place. Really good. So the positive, the size of it, but the downside is that, you can't just slot it in here. You can't magnetically attach it. You've got nowhere to put that stylus. That's why they give you the case for it. So it's a bit of a trade-off there. But I do think a lot of people are going to love just the normal size of it. So we had the one button here too on the side, and you can also launch a lot of things here. So open notes, handwritten note. You can also write on the outside of the screen. But I'm going to test here and use bamboo paper. In fact, I want to use the outer screen first. So I'll go along and launch that. And you can trigger gestures with the stylus too, by the way, if you want, which can kind of hinder you a little bit sometimes. You accidentally trigger gestures, maybe. So I'll show you right now what it's like here. The latency of it and the speed is really good. So hello world. And palm ejection works too, by the way. So as soon as the stylus is detected, it doesn't need to be, when it's away from, okay, I'll keep it away here from the phone. And you can see I can scribble there. But as soon as it gets close, so the tip is not touching the screen, it's about 1 centimeter, half a centimeter away from the screen. And now I can't do anything. Palm ejection, working, great. Pressure sensitive levels, so that's 4096. So just start to press a little heavier. There we go. Great, working very good. But what about the inner screen? I know a lot of people will probably have a few questions about this. How does it work with the creases? Okay, so again, I will just do the same kind of test here. And you don't have to worry about damaging the screen, as I mentioned before, because it's designed for it. So drawing just now a diagonal line. Okay, that didn't affect it at all. It didn't pause. There's no problems going over where the crease is. In fact, I can barely feel that. I'm going to scribble intentionally right where the crease is. No, not a problem at all. And again, pressure sensitivity. So let's start to press harder and then lighter now. Okay, very good. Seems to work fine. And another little test right where the crease is. Hello, and that palm ejection again. It's working perfect. So a very good stylus experience there. I think has to be one of the best. The fact that it supports both of the screens, outer and inner, is really good. So when you do get your Magic V2 RSR or even just the normal Magic V2, bloatware is very minimal. Now, these two apps I installed myself, Booking.com, TikTok, Facebook, and 2 others. That's it. That's the only pre-installed kind of bloatware really that you get with this phone, which is fantastic considering other brands, they put a lot of junk on there and bloat that you have to go through and uninstall. Well, not really with Honor, which is good to see they're doing this. Now, the 1 terabyte of storage here, that's a huge amount. So we don't have micro SD card support, but really, would you need it anyway with 1 terabyte of storage? So you get around and close to, I'd already installed a couple of apps here, about 985 or 86 gigabytes free on first boot. This is a screenshot from within Netflix. It shows us we've got HDR, 10 support, Dolby Vision, and Full HD, of course, and it does have a Wi-Fi level 1 cert. So Amazon Prime Video also in Full HD. It's great to see that Dolby Vision support. So Netflix looks absolutely fantastic with the inner screen especially. I think it looks really good. And we do have a level 3 here with Camera 2 API. So if you're going to be using, say, open camera, third-party camera applications, or G-Cam ports, you can with the Magic V2. And charge time, so 46 minutes to go from 6% to 100% for the 5,000 milliamp hour battery. That's very good. So anything under an hour, I'm really pleased with. And for a foldable, and this is certainly a lot faster than the competition, like Samsung's Fold series, it's very good speed for the 5,000 milliamp hour battery capacity. So Antutu here, 1.5 million, just over. That is a very good score for a Snapdragon 8 Gen 2. Now, if you're wondering, a lot of the Gen 3 phones that I have reviewed, if they are passively cooled, so not with a little fan inside there like a gaming phone, then they're going to get similar scores. They get about 1.6, 1.7 million with Antutu. And this is what my Snapdragon Galaxy S24 Ultra gets. It gets about 1.6 million points. So not really that much better than this at all. And this is why, not to defend Honor again, why I think the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 is a good choice. It's not a hot chipset. It doesn't get as hot. And yes, it did go up 13 degrees here, but overall, it runs quite cool, this phone. And I think if it had the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 in it, it would probably have similar scores and run quite hot. It tends to throttle quite a bit, that chipset. Internal storage speeds, very good. Look at this. Sequential reads and writes, over 3,000 megabytes per second. And look at those random access reads and writes. Really good there. So great performance out of the Honor Magic V2 RSR. Then on to our audio quality. So loudspeakers, there's one here, one at the top. And when I'm using it, when it's open, I make sure the Type-C port is here, and I do have the camera module here, because if I'm gaming like that, that's how I want it to be, so you're not blocking those speakers at all. Now, the volume could be a little bit louder, I find, with these speakers. That's my only criticism of them, but they've got a bit of bass to them. And what I like, especially when gaming, is that you can feel the vibrations of the bass, the sound, through the phone itself, which adds to the immersion of gaming. But here is a sample of what these speakers sound like at 100% volume, just with some NCS sound here. It's not that this is my style of music or anything, it's just so I don't get any copyright strikes. As for gaming, I really do like it with a foldable phone here. So the aspect ratio, yes, is squared off a little different here. And with Genshin Impact, I'm going to show you how it runs here on 60 frames per second setting and the highest possible setting. So everything's on the highest possible. It does say custom because I changed it to 60 there. You'll see that it does run pretty good and it looks amazing. Now, it just pops the screen because it doesn't have the glass in front of it, because it's a foldable OLED screen here. It is very, very nice. It's just the contrast here looks good. You can see as I look around that sometimes, yeah, there's a few little lags and stutters at times, but it is very, very good for gaming, I find. Now, I do have the camera module here. I've got the speakers at the top, so I'm not blocking them, and I'll just attack a basic enemy here, just to give you a quick idea of what it is like. Really nice. Looks great. And no issues with the performance, being the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 that it is using. And the 16 gigabytes of RAM certainly does help out. Now, in some areas of the map, when it loads in, yes, you do see that typical stutter where it drops a few frames when it loads in the areas. But that seems to happen on everything. Even my gaming PC, I've noticed that with Genshin Impact. And how about our thermals? Well, it gets up to about 44 degrees maximum. I've seen it with my thermal imager here. And that's on the rear, just where the camera module is. Just below that is where the chipset is, so that's normal. And these temperatures are very good, actually. They're not bad at all for a foldable. Moving over to the cameras now with the Magic V2 RSR. So we've got 16 megapixels with this front-facing outer sensor. It's the same with the inner screen. It's also 16 megapixels. And it can shoot in 4K 30, but if you want the best quality, I do recommend using the outer cameras, and you can use them and flip the screen around and use the outer screen as your viewfinder, which I will do now just to show you what it's like. By keeping myself in focus here, it does look good, and if I decided to just flip it around and show you something else, well, you can do that because of the focus. So it's very handy to have this option using the outer screen. And of course we can swap over to, say, the ultra-wide camera, which I'm using now, and I can get a lot more in. As you can see, it's really good to have this option here, and you just got to remember to look at these cameras and not where the viewfinder is. So that's one thing you've got to remember when you're using the outer cameras, but it does really improve the quality, and it just gives us more options here too. So with our main camera, the 4K limit is 15 minutes. I do not know why Honor imposes this limit. Maybe it's to do with the thermals, although it shouldn't be an issue here, but we've got that. So I can go over to the 20 megapixel 2.5 times optical camera. And you can take that up to 10 times, but that is mostly digital. As you can see, it looks all washed out, a little bit like an oil painting. So I'd stick to the main camera. So that's 4K 30 frames per second. And you can also do 4K 60 frames per second. And this is our ultra wide, which is just using electronic image stabilization. But steady looking, smooth cameras. And for a foldable, I think the camera quality is good, but it won't match flagships. And what about our stills? So selfies and portraits, they look pretty good. Stitching, I have no issues with it at all. Normal main camera shots have a lot of detail. You can see all the different strands of fur with my cat Vera. And I do find that bright colors, flowers tend to look quite good. So the main camera is great. Ultra wide that you're looking at right now, 50 megapixels. Doesn't take a bad shot at all. This is the main 1x camera. And I've taken it up now to 2.5 times zoom here. And then this is now 10 times digital, which you can see has a lot of noise to it, grain. I wouldn't be using that myself personally. Another bright flower here. Look at all the different tones of red that came out. So again, not bad. Low light, this shot looks good, but look at this shot. Something went wrong here. It's all like muddy looking, washed out. There's artifacts. So they do need a bit of work, I think, with the low light, at least low light scenery kind of shots. If you take those, well, they don't seem to come out very well at the moment. All right, so battery life. Now, this is something that with foldables is never going to be good as your typical flagship phone, at least in my experience, because you're using that inner screen a lot. Well, you should be using it a lot because after all, that's why you buy a foldable. But I'm going to get about 6 hours, just over 6 hours on screen time, which isn't fantastic. Now, it's a 5,000 milliamp hour battery, which is good capacity there. And for a foldable, yeah, that battery life is pretty standard. It's kind of what I get with other foldables too as well there. And it does charge in well under an hour, which is very quick compared to competitors. And great having this stylus that, of course, can work with the outer screen where others simply just forgot about that. Now, battery life with the stylus. Well, I've used it now for a couple of hours and I'm down to now 92% battery life. It will auto sleep, so when you're not using it, it turns itself off. And I press the button that pops up on the display and tells me the remaining battery life. So it's looking like to me at least 10 hours, maybe even more, probably about 13, 14 that the stylus can run. And it's very easy to charge it. You just, plug it in with a Type-C port there at the top. Cameras, let's talk about those. I showed you those examples and pretty good. Not bad at all. The cameras I do like. However, night shots, yes, they need some work. As you saw, it was blotchy. It looked all blocky, not good at all. And we're running Android 13. It ships with Android 13 and not 14. I hope Honor is going to have a firmware update soon just to bump us up to the latest version there of Android, which I'm pretty sure they will. But otherwise, the performance, the build quality, features on offer, this really is the best flagship foldable, and they're all flagships, aren't they? The best foldable phone that you can get is this here, the Magic V2. And if you want to splash out and want the special edition, then this Porsche design Magic V2 RSR is slightly better, especially that 1 TB of storage you get with it. And the slightly different looking design is cool.